We've all had that sinking feeling, right? When you realize that you have a big presentation in like 15 minutes and you haven't looked at the material in a week. Yeah, that feeling. Let's not do that anymore. Hi, I'm Chris LeBrun, your host of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. As someone who's never been afraid of dreaming big and going for it all, I often find myself with a lot on my plate. I'm a husband and father, a nonprofit fundraiser, and an entrepreneur. What I've realized is my view of productivity was pretty toxic. After decades of believing that in order to do more, you had to work harder, I began to see productivity as this beautiful thing. Holistic productivity is the idea that you can accomplish your professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals in a healthy way, and doing so will make you happier and more fulfilled. Join me each week as we break down myths about productivity, share practical tips for maximizing your time, energy, and focus, and hear from others about their productivity journey. This is the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast, episode number 52. My name is Chris LeBrun. I'm a productivity coach. I'm your host today, and I am just so grateful that you are here, that you are investing in your goals, that you are investing in the things that matter to you by listening to this podcast. So welcome. I want to ask you something before we dive in today. When was the last time you did less and got more done? I know that sounds backwards, but hear me out. I've talked about this before, the Pareto principle. You might know it as the 80-20 rule. This says that 80% of your results come from only 20% of your efforts, which means that most of what we're doing is just being busy. It's not actually moving the needle. And I'm not saying this to say stop working hard. I'm saying get ruthless about what you work hard on. The most productive people that I've studied and coached, they aren't doing more than everyone else. They're doing less, but with laser focus on the right things. And so as we get into today's episode, keep that in the back of your mind. It's important to remember all the time, but it's not about adding more to your plate. It's about being smarter with what's already on it. And today I'm going to give you 5 ways to do exactly that. Today our episode is a really practical one. I'm going to give you 5 tools to help you be more productive. And that's the goal, right? With this podcast is to help you be more productive. Here's the kicker though. And I love this. You already have access to all of these tools. No new apps to download, no steep learning curve, no money to spend. And look, believe me, we can all appreciate that in this economy today. But the great thing is you already have access to these tools. We just have to be intentional about what we're doing with them. So let's get into it. Tool number 1 is your calendar. Now, famous quote from Peter Drucker, he said, "What gets measured gets managed." It's a great quote. I love it, but I have a version that I think fits this conversation today. What gets scheduled gets managed. Look, it's way too easy to overcommit, to bite off more than we can chew, whether that's for a single day or a week or just life in general. When you add everything to your calendar, 2 great things happen. First, it removes the friction of deciding what to do next. You've probably been there, like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And believe it or not, repeatedly trying to figure out what you need to do next wastes time and mental energy. When you put stuff on your calendar, you've already decided what happens next, and you can quickly transition and start implementing that new project or task. Secondly, putting everything in your calendar keeps you accountable for doing what you said you were going to do. Remember those great plans that you had? Well, it's so easy for them to get pushed off until the day after never, right? When you look back at the end of your day, you're going to want to see progress. You don't want to see a bunch of things that you didn't have happen. That makes you more motivated to take action throughout the day and get more done. Now, some of you are digital people. You're going to want to rely on Outlook or your Google Calendar, and that is fantastic. Lean into those tools. Again, you probably already have them or have access to them. There's a lot of benefits, and we'll talk about some of those a little bit later, to going digital with your calendar. But some of you, like me, are probably paper people. I love writing things down. I love seeing things on paper. And that's why I love using the Wholistic Productivity Planner. Either way works, but the thing is you have to be serious about it and commit to it. Now, here's a habit that I have that might surprise you. I write my commute times into my calendar. I say, this is when I'm going to be commuting. Not because I don't know when I commute or that I'm going to forget when I'm driving to work, but because I want every hour to know it has a purpose. You've probably heard something similar from financial advisors, give every dollar a job. Well, we can use the same principle with your time. Give every hour a job. And yes, some of those hours can have the job of self-care or relaxation or rest. Some of them should absolutely have that job. That's smart planning. Look, our family has a summer tradition that we call Monday movie night, and I schedule that into my planner. I want to know that Monday nights are for family. And that's the most important thing that I've got going on Mondays during the summer. So I schedule it because it matters. Okay, so that's tool number one. Put everything in your calendar. Now, tool number two is to use your phone for reminders. Now that you've got everything in your calendar, it's time to honor those commitments. Now, there are some projects that I just get lost in. I wanted to switch and tackle something else, but man, I just keep going longer than I planned on this project. And pretty soon, my whole day is thrown off track. Here's where your phone can be a huge asset. And yes, I know we usually talk about phones being a distraction, but hopefully this is one where it can be really useful. Your phone's reminders can help you stay on your daily schedule, help you keep to that calendar that you've already designed. If you're on a digital calendar, you already have this. But the question is, are you actually using it? Lean into those alarm features on your scheduled events so that you know when it's time to transition from one task to another. You may want to play around with the timing a little bit. Some tasks you might want to have a 30-minute window so that you have a little bit of a warning that it's time to start wrapping up, that you're going to be transitioning to another project. Other times, you might want a hard stop, and the signal just says, okay, you're done, switch gears, right? Find what works for you and know that it might be different every time or for different types of projects. That's okay. But just figure out how those calendar alarms can be useful for you. Now, if you're a paper person, you have a little bit of a disadvantage. As great as the Wholistic Productivity Planner is, we have not found a way to build alarms into the paper. So this is where your phone's alarms can fill in the gap. On the iPhone, there's a lot of great options for alarms. You can set one-time alarms. You can set recurring alarms. And here's what I love about those recurring alarms. The schedules are so customizable. It doesn't have to be every single day of the week. It can be every day except Tuesday. They really let you get in there and play with that and kind of set that to your liking. Now, here's a tip that took me embarrassingly a long amount of time to learn. But on the iPhone, there's a label that says alarm. You can change that label from alarm to something more meaningful, like work on a podcast or go for a run or whatever it is that you need to do at this time. So you don't have to remember that. It's, oh, yep, time to do the dishes. Boom, I'm on it. So changing that label was a huge game changer for me. Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. If you've ever gone down the rabbit hole of trying every to-do list or project management app, you know how exhausting it can be. You download the app, you set it up, enter all your data, and then scramble to cancel it before the trial ends. Trust me, I've been there and it's no fun. That's why I love Efficient.app. Alex and Andra, a husband and wife team, have spent over a decade testing and reviewing software of all types so you don't have to. Calendars, project management, banking, planners, email marketing, you name it, they've covered it with honest reviews and side-by-side comparisons. And they don't sugarcoat it. If a tool isn't worth your time, they tell you straight up. I've personally found their reviews super helpful when I was trying to sort through different project management apps. It saved me a ton of time and frustration. Best of all, they often have special deals on the tools they recommend so that you can save money. I'm especially grateful to Efficient.app because they've been supporting the Wholistic Productivity Podcast since the very beginning. The best way to check them out and support the podcast is through the link in the show notes. So next time you're looking for software, let Efficient.app do the work for you. Trust me, you will not regret it. Now, I can't speak to Android, but it's worth exploring what features you have there. And I'm guessing that they're very similar to what you have on the iPhone. Of course, you get to decide how many alarms make sense for you and what things need an alarm for it. I told you that I schedule my commute in my planner, but I don't set an alarm for it. I know when I need to be out the door. I know if I'm running late or not, but I do set an alarm for my nightly PT exercises. I just started PT on my knee here not long ago, and it's still a little bit new, honestly, for me. But without a reminder, I'm just going to keep working through whatever project I'm on, and I'm not going to make time for that. And then when I remember as I'm going to bed, I'm like, oh, shoot. So that's going to set off my whole sleep schedule. So I have to set that reminder. Look, the goal here is simple. Don't let your schedule surprise you. And these alarms can be the little nudge that you need from past you to present you that, hey, this time is dedicated for something and we want to start doing that now. Tool number 3 is another simple one, and I love how simple it is, but I hate how many people miss this opportunity. You know, we've just done all of this planning and scheduling, and that's great. But if you never look at it, it's useless. We've all had that sinking feeling, right? When you realize that you have a big presentation in like 15 minutes and you haven't looked at the material in a week. Yeah, that feeling. Let's not do that anymore. So tool number 3 is not even really a tool. It's more of a tip, but just make sure that you are having a daily review of what's coming up. Just a short 2 to 3 minute daily review of your plan. It's a total game changer, I promise you. But so many people that I talk to don't take this simple step. Now, again, personal preference is going to come into play here. Do you want to review tomorrow at the end of today or first thing tomorrow morning? Now, honestly, I do both. And it doesn't take long to do both of those. But at the end of my workday, I take a few minutes just to note where I am in my projects. So tomorrow me doesn't have to figure out where I left off, right? And that might mean adding some things to my to-do list or scheduling tasks, or even just highlighting a line in a document or a spreadsheet where I left off. You know, if I'm working on something, I want to know where I left off. While I'm doing this, I take a second to glance at tomorrow's schedule, and I look back at my Sunday strategy planning guide. This has the game plan for the whole week in it. And so I just want to look at that, see if I'm missing something. Hopefully I've already scheduled those on tomorrow's schedule in my planner, but I just want to look at everything. Again, it doesn't take long, but I want to know what's coming up, right? And if there is something that I have forgotten, maybe there's more time tonight to deal with it than there will be in the morning. Now, in the morning, I take another minute or two to actually study my day in detail. What meetings do I have scheduled? Have I already prepared for those? Is there something that's missing? What deliverables are due? What deadlines do I have? This often happens before I even get into my office because the first hours of my day are working on personal and purpose-driven projects. So I want to make sure that I have that. But the bottom line is this does not have to be a long or complicated process. All you have to do is glance at your schedule once a day, and believe me, you will already be ahead of most people that I talk to. And it just takes away so much of that stress and those surprise moments that really shouldn't be surprises, right? So make sure you are doing that daily review. Now, tool number 4, this one is going to be a little bit different for you, but tool number 4 is keeping a journal. Now, stay with me because I know journaling doesn't sound like a productivity tool. It might even sound like it's going to take more time, but trust me, this is a great productivity tool. And I'll be honest, I came to journaling later in life. For far too long, I thought it was something that a 13-year-old girl writes in before bed, Dear Diary kind of thing. I just didn't see the need for it. But here's what I learned. Journaling is so much more than that. How many great ideas have you had and then they just vanished? They were gone. Whether you were driving or in the shower or half asleep, you get this great idea and then it's gone and you're trying to get it to come back. We've all had that feeling. This also happens with different people that you've met or places that you've been, conversations that you've had. I don't care how sharp your memory is, you can't remember everything forever. So write it down. Write it down. I've been on mission trips, lots of mission trips through the years, and I know what countries I've been to and what years I did that. But for very few of those trips do I know exactly what town we were serving in. And I'd love to have that information today when I talk to people about where I've been, or if I ever go back to that country, I'd love to be able to go back and see that town. But I don't know where it was. I never wrote it down. Now, personal preference is going to play in here as well. I mentioned earlier, I love writing things. I love a physical notebook. There's just something about writing something down. But what I hate is finding old notes. It's nearly impossible. I kept a notebook for a long time, for many years. And, worst thing happened was I lost one of them. And I knew that there were notes in there that I desperately wanted, but I couldn't find it. But even the ones that you have, the notebooks that you still have access to, the more notebooks you have, the harder it is to find something. Was it in August? Was it in July? Was it in 2022? When did I write that note? And then finding it, it's just a nightmare. Plus, a notebook means something else to carry. You have to have a pen with you at all times. So I've switched to digital note taking. I mentioned this last episode, I think. My personal knowledge management system is software called Capacities. I've even done an episode on what Tiago Forte calls building a second brain. And that's essentially what I'm doing in Capacities. What I love about the digital aspect of it is while I'm driving, I can dictate a note. I'm still hands-free, but I can get that note in at that time. I can categorize notes. I can link them together. I can come back and search for specific words or ideas. Old me, who had brilliant ideas that disappear into the void, is now very jealous of current me because I am using this personal knowledge management system. And here's what I love. I promised at the beginning of the show, everything is free. Capacities has a free version. And honestly, I've tried the paid version for a month or two, but I went back to using the free version because it's got everything that I need. Either way, whether you go digital or paper, the more things you write down, the more useful your journal becomes. And don't think that you have to do all your journaling at once. It's not going to take a ton of time. In fact, the best thing to do is write things down in the moment when they happen. Or like I said, in the car, when I dictate something that I have an idea, that's when it's going to be most useful and most powerful. Think of journaling as building your own personal database of ideas, lessons, and insights. And if you don't remember those ideas, lessons, and insights, you can't use them in the future. So the sooner you start journaling, the better. Okay, tool number 5 is a mindset tool, but it absolutely belongs on this list. And I know I've talked about this before, but I want you to get rid of the word hope from your vocabulary. I used to catch myself saying things all the time like, I hope to read 3 books this month. I hope to launch my podcast in April. I hope to hit this fundraising goal at work. The words that we use, even with ourselves, even internally, they carry weight. And when I said, I hope to, I was giving myself an out. I could make excuses for why it didn't happen and be okay with it because I had that out. And knowing that I had an out, maybe I didn't try quite as hard as I should. And so maybe because of that, I didn't always hit my goals, or it took way longer than it should have. Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. Living with pain is no fun at all. Whether it's sore muscles from a workout, nagging joints, or even stress that just won't leave you alone. That's why I love Little Golden Shepherd. They make all natural butters from organic herbs and essential oils, formulated to ease pain, reduce stress, and even soothe sensitive skin. I use the muscle butter after tough workouts, and the joint butter is perfect for my knees, which somehow were bad even when I was a kid. I'm so grateful to have Little Golden Shepherd sponsoring the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. The way they support the show is super simple. Every time you shop through the link in the show notes, a portion of your order helps keep this podcast going. And here's the best part. If you use the promo code WHOLEPROD, you'll save 15% on your first order. That's promo code WHOLEPROD, WHOLPROD. Try Little Golden Shepherd today. You're going to love it as much as I do, and your muscles will too. Mindset is everything. It's powerful because it actually changes your outcomes. When you just hope to do something, you're quietly giving yourself permission to fail. And I don't want that anymore. Old habits die hard, and I still catch myself slipping and using hope. I'll say something like, I hope to run a half marathon this year. And when I catch it, I correct myself out loud. Even if I'm talking with someone, I say, whoa, hold on. Let me rephrase that. I am going to run a half marathon this year. I'm registered for one in May, and I'm planning to do one in the fall. Notice I used the word planning there because I haven't signed up for it yet, but I'm not hoping to do one in the fall. I'm planning to sign up for it. There's something about that mild, voluntary embarrassment of having to correct myself in front of somebody that has really helped me break this habit. So just take hope out of your vocabulary altogether, especially when it comes to your goals. You'll approach these goals with more focus, more resolve, and more follow through. And that means that you will get more of what matters done, and done on time. So let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about today. I've given you 5 tools that you already have. It doesn't cost you anything. Just take something new that you are doing, that you're using the things that you already have in a different way. Number 1, put everything in your calendar. Give every hour of your day a job. Number 2, set reminders on your phones. Let the technology alert you to when you need to transition from job 1 to job 2. Number 3, do a daily review. All it needs to be is 2 to 3 minutes to stay ahead of your schedule. And trust me, you will appreciate that when you walk into your next meeting confident because you've been prepared. You knew it was coming. Number 4, keep a journal. Write down your ideas before they vanish. And, something I should have mentioned before, the Notes app in your phone will work great for this as well. If you want that digital searchable thing, don't have to have fancy software like Capacities. You can use your app right there. I should have mentioned that before, but wanted to squeeze that in. And last one, number 5, ditch the word hope from your vocabulary. Replace it with intention and commitment, something that gives you the resolve that you need to go out and do the things that are on your schedule, the things that are going to get you to your goals. And that is what we want to do. Look, no matter what system you use, it only works if you actually use it. So take one of these things. Don't feel like you have to implement all 5 at once. Just pick one and try it this week. See how it goes. If it works well, start layering in another one and another one. These are simple, no-cost ways to show up differently for yourself and for your goals. And I would genuinely love to hear how it goes. Reach out and let me know what you're trying, how it's working. Are you running into roadblocks? I'd love to help you with all of that and hear your success. All right, well, that is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Check out the show notes at holisticproductivity.com/52. I'll have links for everything that we talked about today, including capacities, but there's also some old podcast episodes, so make sure you go check those out. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that now on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. You can like, follow, and subscribe, and that will make sure that you get new episodes when they drop on Tuesday. I know you don't want to miss those. If you got value from today's show, if there was something that just really made sense to you, I'd love for you to rate the show. I love seeing 5 stars. That is my favorite. But go ahead and rate the show. Yeah, that's the best way to help more people find the show and get value from it as well. Make sure you follow at Wholistic Productivity on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack, all of the social medias. Lots of great productivity tips and motivation throughout the week. So I'd love for you to get those as well. And join the Holistic Productivity community on School. This is also free. This is also a great tool to stay working, stay focused on your goals. Lots of great people there from around the world, man. I love how international this community is on School. And there's just a ton of resources to help you stay accountable and motivated. So check that out. Link will be in the show notes as well. It's SKOOL, though, if you're looking for that. And then you can just search Holistic Productivity. Again, thank you so much for listening in. As always, the reason that I do this show, the reason that I hang out with you every single week is to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. And I'm so excited that you are taking those steps to do that in your life. I can't wait to see where it brings you. Hopefully it brings you right back here next week. But until then, take care.